Okay, so for this next one, I want to really illustrate the bending of the fingers. Again, the fact that they all kind of reside or take their own angles from one another is a really important thing to get in the habit of drawing and understanding. So let's go ahead and work on a pose that's got a lot of expressiveness to it. And so what we'll do, we'll first define the opening of the hand. So that can be done again with just a kind of a block shape. We can do that point to where the middle finger is, something like that. We can do the thumb rather quickly like this, and the pad of the thumb like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this hand really kind of an intense grasping kind of pose. So this is really great for comics, obviously, and pretty much anything, any expressiveness, storytelling wise. You always need this type of hand pose, in my opinion, for that extreme moment. So we've got like the hand like this, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw the fingers folding in and on to themselves a bit with a bit of stress. So this can be tricky to do. I'll be honest, this has taken me a while to get confident with this pose because there's a lot of dynamics here, and then it's kind of hard to train yourself to almost go against what you would think about the hand or the shape of the fingers. So again, it's that the common thing seems to be to want to draw the fingers pointing in the same direction. But with a pose like this, you have to not only angle each one of them independently this way, so they fan out a bit like that, but also you have to angle them out and then bring them back in visually. The hand does this quite a bit, and that's why the hand is so tricky. It just seems to go to and fro or back and forth perspectively. So real easy to get confused by this, and you're probably even seeing a little bit of confusion even as I illustrate it like this. I kind of have to rough sketch through it and make little adjustments, incremental changes, as I always talk about, and that's okay. I want to show you that like I try to talk about this in a lot of my lessons, that I don't always have a clear, concise picture going into the ideas. I know roughly what I'm looking for, but I incrementally change things because there's those days when you just don't see it as well, but you still got to get it done. So that's when you rely on your techniques, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. Like, I'm like struggling to really see it, but I know I've done it before, so I know I can do it, kind of thing. But will it come out as good as I would like? That's always the question we have to ask ourselves. But if you do it enough, I always think that if you do enough of this, you'll still do good enough on your bad days, kind of thing. So that's part of being a professional. Like, once you get good enough, even your bad days will be good enough by comparatively or whatever. You'll still manage to get through it. Would we love for everything to be just amazing? Of course, that's the goal. But the main thing is to train yourself to be able to do well enough, even when you're not feeling it up to par. So hopefully you can see that I'm trying to really angle these fingers. And again, I'm going to start kind of looking down at my hand and going, okay, am I doing the claw properly? This is the claw. You're afraid of the claw, kind of thing. So the claw has to come in and it has to, bend inward. So, I kind of want to bring this pointer finger in a little bit more. So I might adjust that a bit. It's almost like the pointer finger and the middle finger should be a little bit closer by comparison, but I really want to stretch almost the imagination of this pose. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it like that and see if I can refine this way and still make it work. So let's try that. So I'm going to soft erase this down. Go ahead and scale it up a bit more. Poses like this are always tricky for me, so I like to have as much room to work as possible. And again, this is where I'm going to get in here and try to lay in some of the more organic feel to the lines, clean it up without hopefully not making it look overly tense. Now I will say that certain areas of the skin, when it's really compressed and stressed, I guess it's really flexing, you'll get kind of this effect where it'll go. And obviously, you get the separations of the wrinkles, but you'll get this effect sometimes where it goes back and then back out the other way. So I seem to notice that when I'm studying like a really, again, stressed or overly flexed area of the body, it'll kind of compress that way and change shape a little more dramatically in that smaller area. So I'll get some of the wrinkles in here. Try to figure out how these this webbing would connect to the hand there. Bring it back out. And I think it's just really important to constantly move the line back and forth. Now, obviously, if you do that too much, you're going to maybe end up with something that looks a little too mushy. But I would definitely say that it's better to err on the side of moving the line back and forth more than keeping it too stiff. Because unless, of course, your style is just that and you're really going for a very structured style. But if you need to add more of an organic feel to your work, you really want to move these lines back and forth, use lots of curves, and that should help to soften up the work. Okay, so another tricky part of the hand, and once again, looking down at my own hand, trying to visualize this, is the webbing. So the webbing from finger to finger will go across, but then, you're going to see plane changes on some of it. So I don't know that we're going to see it all the way across because that would again look too repetitive, but you're going to see a little bit of this plane change right there. And then we're also going to see the round over of the pad of the finger here, and then the way that it kind of transits into the other part of the pad of the hand down here. So I'll get some of this in there, the larger pad of the hand. And this one generally is smaller and a different shape altogether. Kind of comes up more on the side. Okay, so now for that middle finger, which I generally would have started with this, but I think we're okay. We'll see here. So you want that separation of the pads. And you see I'm jumping right into the fingernail here, which I probably shouldn't have, but it's really important for an angle like this, a pose like this, to show that change in direction. It's really a quick way to define that. So that's kind of why I went right to it, because it helps me to see it visually as to what I'm after. And I think the trickiest part about this is when they start to turn a little bit, you got to get a tiny bit of this plane change right here. So if you can see that, so you got the pad right here, and then the plane change of the finger on the side. So it tends to flatten out a little bit right there. But I think I've almost got the lines too far over. So let me try that again. Let's erase these back. And I think that finger just looks too smooth going up. It almost looks like too consistent of a line. So I'm going to bring that over a little bit. This is what I'm always talking about when I say nudging the lines, really trying to explore the shapes, move things around, see if I can do a little bit better than I had previously. Always checking the work that way. Okay, we'll probably come back to that. It still doesn't look entirely correct to me, but okay, so now the ring finger, and again, just getting that plane change and drawing that segment of the finger to be entirely back onto itself, so folding back over. And this was always just a really tricky pose for me to visualize and get right. And I still feel like I got a long ways to go to get it as right as I would like, as correct as I would like, or whatever. But it's definitely worth exploring. It's definitely worth studying this because it's such an expressive type gesture of the hand. Like I said, lots of opportunities to use something like this when drawing comics. So this one's a bit trickier. So what I need to do here is show even a little bit of the top or this next angle or segment to the pinky. So it becomes a lot trickier to envision how to really showcase that, how to angle it, show the back of this just a little bit, and then that final segment where it connects to the hand. And again, we'll drop in that nail real quickly, and you could, it's a really quick way to finish off the finger and make it look more dimensional. And here we can have it start to connect to the back of the hand, something like this. And a few wrinkles over to here. We can also try to illustrate some of the pads. And I want to make these look a bit different. So again, instead of me shading each one like this, because that would immediately distract and make it too repetitive, I have to just try to pick at it and add a little shadow here, a little there, leave the rest alone, stuff like that. So it's always good to kind of think about it like that as you're doing it. Just where can I slowly hint to certain areas of it, but not all throughout the entire illustration. Okay, so now we've got enough of that in there. Obviously, there's still a lot of rough lines in there that we could clean up. Sometimes I actually like leaving that stuff in there, but I'll soft erase some of it back. And then now what we'll do, just to further illustrate some of the changes of direction, we'll put in little bits of drop shadows. And we'll just do that with line weight. We won't do a whole lot of shapes of shadow on this one, but I always love getting in here and doing just a little bit of line weight like this to really push those forms around. So something as simple as that, to me, adds a lot more dynamic to it. Like that. And obviously I can get in here with more line weight and really start to build up the depth. So I can add more line weight on the areas that are closer to the viewer, a little bit of heavier line weight on areas that go in front of other areas of the illustration. Lots of ways to really get line weight in there and make it more effective, make it work effectively in your work. You can have fun with it and start doing little hairs and things like that and really give it another effect altogether. So little wrinkles here, we can do a little bit of line weight here, or I shouldn't say line weight, but just a little bit of line work there to show the plane change. So hopefully you can see rather quickly we've got a little bit more expressive. I don't know if I like the hairs or not. I might get rid of those, might shave those. But it's got a little bit more emotion than the other hands do. So that's really what we're after. Like, we want to try all these different hand poses and gestures and figure out how much energy and emotion we can convey in them, because that's going to translate really well into our storytelling and give us overall a better narrative to what we're doing. It's explain more of the story with that. So lots of gestures and lots of ways to convey that with hands. So now let's go ahead and move on to the next one.